Hey, welcome back, guys, to Cup of Code 01. Today, this is going to be another one of the videos in the Master Python Projects series, where we just simply create usable projects utilizing Python 3 code. And we like to use these projects where it's actually something useful, not necessarily just crap or exercises. So, with that being said, let us jump right into it. Just going to clean some of this up. So, what we are creating today is a program that will block websites from us while we're doing our working hours, while we're trying to be productive. So, one of the biggest obstacles we all face when we're trying to be productive is getting distracted. So, we're going to create a Python program that can run in the background. We can set a certain time frame. So we're going to be importing a library for that as well. And by setting the time frame, we're telling the program from this time to this time, block these following sites. Don't even let me have access to them. And then when that time is up, then I want to have access to those sites again. Then I'll even show you how you can run it automatically, how it will run when you first start your computer. I particularly prefer to run it from the command line. That's just my own preference. Mostly because my hours of working are not necessarily as set as most people would be, like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So first things first, I'm not gonna debug through this. I'm gonna read through this kind of line by line, and then we're gonna open the file tree and see exactly what it's doing, and then we're gonna watch it in action. So first off, I am importing two different libraries. We're going to import the time library from Python. And then I have from datetime, import datetime as DT. Now, we don't have to do the point of doing, you could have done import datetime. But then when you're writing in the code, you would have had to write datetime.datetime. Saying like from the library, use datetime. And then we would have applied the method. So it's just tedious. So for that, we're going to do from datetime, import datetime as DT. So now I can write dt.now or dt.datetime instead of the datetime.datetime. If we only did the import datetime as dt, then it would have been dt.datetime, would have been more time to write. That sounds funny, dt.datetime. So you'll see in the code, anytime I want to use any of the different methods or functions or classes from datetime, I just can do dt dot whatever it is I want to pull from that library. So it knows that I'm pulling datetime from the datetime library. And then you can see it, so the dt.now is going to be the same as what would have been dt.datetime.now if I didn't do the import in that fashion. So now going down the line here, host temp is a variable, and I created a string in it called hosts. This was just while I was doing particular testing. So you could even ignore that if you're creating this code. I was just doing this because one of the files we're going to be messing with in our system is the host file. That's where we're actually going to be writing to that file and adding the lists, the sites rather, that we don't want access to. And then when the time is up, we're going to be deleting those files from the host file, or those lines of code from the host file. I didn't want to mess with my host file directly until I ran the code, had it working appropriately. So I was using a copy of it. So that's what the host temp was. I was temporarily doing it. But you'll see when we go throughout the code, nowhere am I ever calling host temp, because I changed it all to host path. So going down the line, we have host path is the next variable. In that variable, I have R, and then I have a file path. C, Windows, System32 drivers, etc. hosts. That's where the host file is on my system. That's where it's going to be on most systems if you're a Windows-based system. The R in the front is allowing me to escape characters. So as you know, with escape characters, if I did \n, that's telling Python I'm escaping the letter N, and I want that to be a new line. Or \t, that's a tab. So since we're using backslashes when we're naming a file name, you can put R before the string of the file path, and that tells Python the string that I'm about to put in, there's going to be slashes, and they're not escapes. So in essence, we're escaping the escape character by using the R in the beginning. There's other ways to do that as well, but I just find R to be the easiest. Then we have a new variable redirect, and with that I have an IP address, and this is a dead page, 127.0.0.1. It's going to be a dead page, so what you can kind of see where we're going with this. If I try to call any of these websites, it should throw me to that dead page. And then I have here another variable, sites that kill me, or meaning sites that people spend most of their time on, that take away from being productive. And we have Facebook, facebook.com, cupofcode01, good site, and then Gmail we have in there. Now you just see that you're putting in the website as a string. I do have www.facebook, and then I also have just facebook.com. Same thing with Cup of Code, because depending on your browser, you may not be typing in the www. So sometimes you have to put in multiple variations of the same site. It says these 4 elements need their own respective lines in the host file and redirect IP. So what that means is that when we're actually creating our rewrite, our overwrite of the host file or portions of it, when we're adding code to it, when we're appending it, each www.facebook will have its one line. Facebook will have its own line. Gmail will have its own line. Cup of Code will have its own line, and so forth. And then I just have print DT now, just so I could see what the time was right now when I did that. So dt.now is DT is using the datetime library, and now it would pull exactly what the time is at this moment in time. And then I have while true. So if I did, whoops, a daisy. And it would make sense to you if I ran this. The reason I extracted it out of this is if I run this file right now, if I tried, I'll even try it. Watch, I'll go to productivity tool, I'll go to run, and it's going to give me an error, permission denied. See the file path that it's calling there, Windows System 32 driver etc. host. It's giving me a permission denied, simply because the host file, if we're going to try to mess with it, you have to have administrative privileges. So even when we're doing the command line work, we can't just open the regular command line. We have to go to command line and open it and run it as an administrator. So if we're on Linux, we have to do that as a super user. That's just the computer's way of preventing that file from being overwritten from any general kind of a program. So I can't do that directly through PyCharm. When I was testing it and I wasn't going through administrative privileges because it was on a copied file, it wasn't an issue. But that's why we're running this in a command line after we're done coding it all. So I just wanted to show on this piece here, just the print dt.now. So I'll go back to 1 and run that through, just so you can see that it's printing out. This is exactly right now, May 18, 2017. And then we have the hour, the minute, and then the second, and then I think we're going microseconds here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 10 to my 6 micro. So going on microseconds. So that now is constantly going to be changing. But the point is, and look at the formatting. It goes year, month, day, and then hour, minute, second. So we kind of want to take note of that formatting when we get back to our actual coding. So where we were here, and so now I have a while loop, and all I did here is I put while true. So while what is true? Well, while the following conditions are true, we're making a conditional loop. And what I have, it says if you look at the output of the DT now, you'll see the output format. We have that here from the file we just ran, because that format, we're going to use that format in this while loop. We're going to create 3 different datetime objects and compare them. So we have datetime right now. We already printed that out, so we saw that. So we have right now, that now moment is whatever your present is, whatever you're starting your computer, whenever you're running this file. We want to compare that to an earlier time and a later time. So if you're working, in this example here, let's even we'll put down 9. So as we go through this, what you're going to pretty much see is that this whole variable is saying from all of if the daytime of the current right now, but 9 a.m., compared to the date of right now, compared to the date time of a later time, which we have as 17, which is 5 p.m., if that's going to be our conditional. So if right now is greater than this time but less than this time, this is what I want to do. So we're making 3 different datetime objects, so we just can have a comparison using Boolean operators. So we have if dt, and then we have if datetime, and then we have datetime now dot year, because if you look at the output, it was year, comma dt now month dot month. We have the month, and then if you guessed it, dt now day, and then we have the day, and then we have the hour, and I put 9 o'clock. So if right now is year, month, and day, of 9 p.m. is less than dt now, and right now it is. It's 10:24 a.m. where I am, so 10:24 is past 9 a.m. So far we are dt now is greater. So if 9 a.m. of this date time is less than right now, which it is, and we are right now is less than the year, month, and day, so the same exact day that I'm in right now, but 5 p.m., which it is, because like I said, now we're 10:25 a.m., it's less than 5 p.m., so far we're true. If this, then print working hours. Now we can load the, and you're going to say, what the hell does that do? You'll see it execute when we do the command line. So we're just going to print the string working hours. So that tells me that if I'm working hours, that means the file is going to be active in the sense that it will actively be blocking these sites that we're going to end up be putting into the host file. Now we can load, read, and write to the host file using the R+ allows reading and writing to the file. So before you saw the R up here, that was the escaping the escape characters, and down here when we're doing it with when we're using it with an open function, it is going to be to mean to read. And then if we do R+, you're saying read and write, or read or write, but you're allowing both operations. So if this condition was met, which right now it is because we're in between those two time periods, print working hours. With open, I have host path. Host path, we look up here, that was the pathway to the file that's in my hard drive. Host path, comma, read and write as file. Content equals file.read. So we're calling the read function on the file, and it says as file, open this as a file. And we'll open what? Again, host path, telling where the file is. File.read, so I'm saying read that file. It's going to load the entire host file into memory. And if you want, I'll show you that host file real quick so you can see it. So we're going to go Windows, System32, drivers, etc. So I'm going to go down to C. We're going to go Windows. I'll swing down System32. What did I say? Drivers, etc. We're going to have host file. If I double click, it says what do I want to use. I'll use Notepad. So here is the actual host file. So it tells me this is a sample host file, but this is actually operational in the sense if I was ever calling it. So you can see here I'm calling that dead pathway. And these are all hashtags, and you'll even know in Python the hashtag is not executable code. This is giving us examples though where it's telling us, showing us an IP address and then the website name. So here we have it's a local host. That's why it's a dead line. It's not going to actually bring up the web page if we're pointing our browser to that particular IP address. So 127.0.0.1 is what we're using. That's why we're using that up here in the redirect. So that right here, so that it actually, the redirect means that it's going to a local host of a dead page. So that's why we're not going to see the pages that we're searching for. And then you can ignore this. That's because I have to run the code again. This one is actually, right now it's active. So right now the program is actually trying to run. Let me close that out. We'll go back to that guy later. So I wanted to show you that it was going to read and write that into memory. And then within that same loop, and now we're still we're in the if loop, we're in the with loop, now we're putting a for loop inside of that as well, another conditional part. For site and sites that kill me. So for each site in sites that kill me, so in this list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. For each site in sites that kill me, if site in content, so if the site is in this variable that we made, and that variable again was reading the file that we pulled from host path, pass. So when it reads the file hosts, if one of those sites is listed there, if it's on a line that's there, then pass. If it's in the content, then leave it alone. Else file.write. So now we're saying if it's not there, I want you to write that site onto the host path file. So file.write, redirect, and then I have redirect plus, and I'm putting in a space plus the site and then a new line. Now, what does this all mean? So we're writing, so you know what writing means. That's our R+ that we have here. That's read and write. So we're reading it, and then we're writing it. Redirect. So we'll go up to redirect. Redirect is a variable, and it has the actual IP address that we put into it that we got from our host file. And then I'm saying redirect, then add a space, and then add the site. What is site? Well, for site insights. So for each site that's in sites that kill me, and sites that kill me is a list that we have of 4 individual site addresses here. So it's saying add that site. So redirect, put the IP address, give a space, and give that site, and then make a new line. Now, where did I just make that up? I did not just make that up. We followed the actual execution example that they showed me. IP address, space, name of the website that's in our list, or the site that's in our sites that kill me, and then a new line, so it drops down below. So we were just copying the formatting that already exists within the system. Else. So this was all, is your time falling in between that window? Yep, print this, and then go to your host path, and I'm going to make a variable called content. I want you to read that host path and store it in content. And then for each site that's in the variable sites that kill me, if the site is in that content of the file that I just read, pass it. If it's not, I want to write to it. So we're only writing to that file if we're falling in between the working hours, because it's all within that for loop. So now we have else. So meaning we're either not in those, if we're not in this time period, then we're jumping right down to else anyway, because that would have been false. Then we'd go to the next executable line of code. So let's say that we're not in the time period. So it says else with open host path read plus as file. So again, read or write. Now we're going to use the readlines method. That's going to produce a list of each string of the item. What we're doing now is what else would only come into play if we're not in that time period, if we're not within our window right now of 9 to 5. And what would that mean? So I'm just going to go up here and show you real quick. So this is true if right now is later than 9 in the morning but less than 5 p.m. Let's say it's not. Let's say it's 7 p.m. I want to be able to have access to the sites. Or at 5:01, I want to be able to have access to the sites. So that's my else statement here. So I'm saying with open host path, read up that same host path file again, which is our host file. Read and write as file. Content equals file.readlines. What I'm going to be doing now is I have to make sure that the software, we already have code to write the lines to that host file during the time period, so it blocks those sites for me. But when I'm outside of that time window, I need to have code that will actually remove those lines from the host file so that I do have access to those websites, those particular websites and IP addresses, when I'm outside of my working window, when I'm outside of my productivity window. And I don't want to have to go in and manually do that because, again, it's admin rights and so forth, pain in the ass. So we want our code to actually go in and remove the lines that we created before. And that's where we're using the readline methods, which is going to produce a list, and each item will be a string on that list. So then we're going to check the readlines list against our sites that kill me list, and if the items that I want them out, but no method, what does I have here? No method to delete the append list. So this is, it got a little dirty because you can't, it's easy to write individual lines to the file, but you can't go in and delete just individual lines straight off the bat in the file. So we have to kind of do a little bit of a workaround there. So what we did, you'll see once the read line is complete, the pointer will be sitting at the end of the file. So once I execute this, the content equals file.readlines. Once I read the lines in the content variable, the pointer, my cursor, so right now my cursor is in the front. The cursor goes like this. It goes all the way to the end at the very last element spot of the file. That's important because then any append method, remember the append method from, I think it's video 11 in the basic series, shows that the append method always goes to the end of a list. And we've created a string of lists here with the read file. The seek method will place the pointer where we want it. So we want to use the seek method to go all the way in the back. Otherwise, what would happen is every time we would try to append this file, since it reads the entire file and it puts the cursor at the end of the file, each time we try to read it and append it, it's going to keep adding that whole file in blocks. We're going to have multiple copies of that same exact host file, and we don't want that. We want to be able to say, no, we want the original host file, just delete those lines that I wrote a couple hours earlier and do it automatically. But in order to do that, we have to put the cursor all the way back in the beginning so that the append method, when it's adding onto it, it's adding onto only one block at a time, instead of having multiple blocks of the same file going through it. Then we have file.seek 0. So 0 is the placement. That's going to be at the very beginning with the seek method applied to the file. For line in content. So again, content here is referring to the variable here, which is the file that we read for each line in that. I have here, if item not there, append a new file host via writing a new file. So if not, this is kind of, people have a hard time sometimes reading negatives. It's almost like when you hear double negatives and it's positive. But let's read it. Forget the not for a second. If any site in line for site in sites that kill me, file write line. So and then we're going to be nodding that or negating that. So cite in line for cite. So let's go back up. Cite in line. What is line? Line is a line of this file. So where are we? Hosts, notepad. No. For cite, I want to make sure I read exactly where we're saying it. So for cite in line. So what it's saying is for if not any cite, but we'll negate it later. First get the positive, then negate it. Cite in line for cite in sites that kill me. So we're going to end up having a list of sites that kill me, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the IP address space, then the actual email address we put in. I'm sorry, the site address we put in. This is a Gmail one I did before. So right now, if I tried to access this site, it's going to give me a dead page at that IP address. So what I'm saying is, for cite in line, it's going to go through each line, looking for not just any site, but only one of the sites that we have in our list. And our list was, where are we? Up here. Here's our list. So it's going to go through cite each line in our file, looking for sites that are in our sites that kill me list. And then it says file.writeLine. So what it's looking for is saying, if it's not in there, then write line. And write line means these lines. So what I was talking about before in terms of the append method, when I load this into memory, when I do read lines, it's going to look like this. The cursor is going to be all the way at the end here. And then if I'm trying to add lines, each time it's going to add this whole block because my cursor is starting at the end of the file. So I'm using the file.seek 0 so that it comes all the way in the 0 position in the file. That's this part right here. And then we're saying for line and context. So for each of these lines, if you do not find a site that's in my sites that kill me, write the same line. This is always, so it's like copy, paste. No sites from sites that kill me, copy, paste. No sites that sites that kill me, copy, paste. No, and it's going to keep doing that. But it's going to be different when we get down here because it's going to say, we have a site that's in sites that kill me. So then what do? We're going to use the truncate method to delete all things under the specified section. So let's read the code, then we'll look back at the file. File.truncate, nothing crazy there, putting the truncate method on the file that we're reading, and the file again here is up in the content variable. File.truncate, print time to play, and then time sleep I have 600 seconds. So if you divide that by 6, it would be 10 minutes. So that has to do with how often we're printing in the command line, which you'll see. I'll actually make that less, just so I'll make it 5 seconds so you can see what I'm talking about when I actually run the file. So what we're doing here is we're saying, is there a site in sites that kill me? No. Copy paste that line. Print that line. Is there a site in here from sites that kill me? No. But when it gets down here, is there a site in sites that kill me? Yes. Then what do I need to do? File.truncate. Truncate that. Cut it out of the file. This is going to be the whole file. Cut it out. So that's how we get around the idea of being able to delete what we want, and then print time to play in the command line, so that we can, meaning that now we can have access to all those sites. So with all that being said, I'm not going to close it yet. I'm going to bring it down. I am going to keep this open here. All right, let's head over to the command prompt. Now this probably, I have some of my permissions are a little bit changed, so this shouldn't work the way that I'm about to do it. But nonetheless, let's see what's going on. So all I'm doing real quick is I'm just changing over to a different directory. I'm going to my E directory. That's what I have my files in. I want to go here. I'm going to go to my actual name. Whoops, daisy. Didn't want to do that. And all I'm going to do here is copy this. Copy. I'm going to CD into there. And then I want this guy. Copy. And I'm going to write Python control-v-it-in.py. And I'm going to run it. And it did allow it. And I think it's only, let's see if it actually worked, though. I don't know if it worked yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my host. How did I get to my host file? Well, I went to my C drive. I went to Windows. I'm going down to System 32, and then I'm looking for drivers, and then I want etc., and then I have my host file. Double click it. It's going to give me Notepad, and I'm going to open it up. Now, you'll notice this is no different than what it was before. We have our host file there. on the side here is telling me time to play, time to play, time to play, time to play. So if we look at our code really quick, which I will do here. Nope, I lied. I'll do it here. Opening up Notepad. Look at my code. I have the time right now set at 15. So it is, it's about 10:53 my time. So it's not 3 o'clock. So right now is not greater than this. So it would have went down to this, and it would have went down through a whole different piece of the code, which would have simply been print time to play. And that's what we're getting here. Every 5 seconds, it's printing time to play. And the dot sleep is just making it wait while it's doing that. But there was nothing written, so no sites are going to be blocked, that kind of a thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to, let's make it 9. I'm going to save it up. I'm going to Control C in the command prompt, and I'm going to redo this. .py, and see, now it says working hours. So now we know we're in that realm. So it's going to keep printing working hours. So let me go to my host file now and open it up. So you can see it's working, even though it shouldn't. And I know why that is. It's because on your system, if it's the first time you're ever going to host files on properties, under security, I edit my permissions and I go to all users and I gave full control, modify all executable status to the host file. You don't have that. If you want to go and give it that, you can. But if that's the case for you, what you can do, if you don't want to do that, you can go to command prompt, right click, and then run as administrator. If you run it as an administrator, then it will allow you to execute it without changing the permissions that exist within the host file. So we're rocking out this code. So I just saw that my host file it added those lines. So my code's working. It's saying if I go and I try to go to Facebook, Cup of Code, or Gmail, I should redirect to a dead site. So let me see if that is true. So let me go to facebook.com. We got a dead site. So, all right, good, working. What do I have? Gmail.com. Oh, I didn't have www, so that's different. I just had site can't be reached. Dead site. Dead site. So we know it's working. So now I can't mess with any of these sites. I blocked them out entirely. So the project's working. Now I am stuck with having to work. But now let's pretend, and side note, you do have to keep this CMD open if you're running it from the command line. I'll show you later how you can run in the background. So if I close this right now, what would happen was the code would stop running, but these 4 guys would still be placed in the host file. And if I try to access it, it's not going to work. So it's not enough just to close this. You have to Control C it. I Controlled C, so I stopped the program running in the command, but my lines are still going to be present. So if I want to get rid of those guys, what I need to do is go back into my code, which I'll go to productivity tool. Right now, just for example, I'll make this, I'll say it's later so that we don't fall within the truth for that loop. I'll go back over here. I'm going to run this. Control V .py, enter. It's going to say time to play. And now if I open that same host file, you're going to see that those 4 lines are now gone. And if I try to go back to any of those sites, it better work. Damn it, because my code works. All right, sweet. So we got this one. So you're going to see we're going to have a new Python project showing up today. If I went to www.gmail, that's going to work. Awesome. If I go to Facebook, I don't even use Facebook, but you'll see now the site works. That's the point. So awesome. So removed it from the host sites. Code's working. Now it can be play time and telling me time to play. Again, same thing. Command line would have to be open for this to work. I'm going to Control C to get out of here. And I am going, so now that program's not working. And I don't have to worry about deleting anything because I'm not running the code. But I will go back just for good measure. And I will bring this back to 10. So from 10 a.m. to, let's say, 3 o'clock, I don't want to have access to those sites. So I'm going to put it this way. But again, it's still not running because I'm not running it right now on the command line. If I wanted to do it differently, so I have here schedule program. And by all means, you don't have to use PyCharm. You can write your code in Notepad, even Notepad++, and rock it out. Or in the Python shell. You don't have to go crazy about it. So what I have here is I personally like to run it in the command line, which is I just showed you. How do we get the program to run it? At startup, we can schedule it. We can change our file extension to .pwy instead of pw by right-clicking on it, refactoring it, and hitting name. So what I'm talking about there is on productivity, if I right-click and I hit refactor and I hit rename, I can make this a W, and then I would just hit refactor, and it would make that into a W. But again, I don't want to do that. By doing it to W, it doesn't automatically make it an executable Python program, but it allows it to be. It uses the executor that comes with when you downloaded Python. There is, if we go into Python 3.6, you'll see here, WW, here we go, Python W. So it has its own exe application program. It has its own exe that will execute Python codes if you do pyw. So it's going to ask us when we do the scheduler, what program do I use to execute this? You can check test, set it to run anytime, PC starts, go test. So I'll just show you how you do it if you wanted to do it. Sometimes it's that library too. What am I doing with capitals? It's ridiculous. So I'm just going to go into my search here. I'm going to do task scheduler. It's going to open up, this again is in Windows. I'm going to open up my task scheduler. So this is all the crap that runs, and it tells me if it's running, if it's ready to run, next time it's going to run, and then the author. Look at NVIDIA. Man, those guys are crazy. Look at all that crap. So if I want to make a new thing, I'm going to go to create task. And then here I'm going to give it a name. So you could say productivity tool or don't waste my damn time, whatever you want. You'd give it a name, and you could either do run only when you're logged in, depending on how your system is set up, or you could do, I would definitely check run with highest privileges and run whether you're used in or not, just the way it's always running to keep you productive. You'd hit OK, or not, so you hit OK yet. You go to triggers, you go to new, and then under new here, you're going to be setting your schedule. Do you want it to go one time? We already have, you're not setting a time here because in our program, we already specified right now, is it after the morning, the start time, and is it before the end time? If yes, then add those lines of code. So we don't have to set that, but you are going to do enabled, and then don't care about that. Actions. Just want to make sure. Okay, yeah. Actions, we're going to hit new, and it's going to say, what do you want to do? We want to start a program, and it would say, what's your program script? And then you'd browse through, and you'd select your program that's your script. You don't have to worry about any of that. You'd hit OK for that. And then for conditions, you can read through these. I definitely have it started if it's on AC power, or stop if it's battery power. You can do that if you like. All up to you. Under settings, allow it to run on demand. Yes. Fine. Nothing else special there. That's how you would set a task. And then when you run it, it would pop up within this library. You could always hit on your task schedule library and you'd see it in here. It wouldn't be running yet. You'd have to actually restart your computer if you did it as when user logs on, or when I start up my system, whichever option you decided to choose. And then you could just check in the task manager. You could do the good old to see what your process is running. And it's not going to be running with your file name if you look through it. It's going to be running as Python, because remember we used the Python W as the executor. So you would find it under, over here in P, you'd find it under Python. That's where that would be running, and then you could kill it there if you wanted to. But that's how you could run it if you wanted to run it from in the background using that executor. And then you could just go through Task Scheduler and you could set it up. Not a big fan of that. I just don't like extra crap running when it doesn't need to be. My hours are also not entirely set. And it's also, it's good practice for me to, when I'm going through these things, to come in, go through my code, change some of the sites if I need to change them, if I need to add. I won't remove typically. And then changing the times, because my time period I may say, you know what? I need to be productive for the next 2 hours only. So I'll look at the time right now and it says, 11:03 a.m. So I'll sit there and say, all right, I'm going to say, if it, starting at, 11, and so right now is greater than 11, but less than, I'll say 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. I'll put down 13 for the end time. And then I'll just go to my command line and execute this, minimize the command line, and then do my work. And then if I try to access those sites, it's blocked. So it's a nice little way of self-discipline to an extent. And this is an awesome example and practice with coding. So go through the code, play with it, have an excellent time. Any comments or questions, drop them down below. If you have any issues, let me know. Some side quick notes, don't forget host temp you don't even need. I mean, I could even delete that out. I was just using that when I was running test patterns. We are importing the 2 different libraries. Any other big pieces? I mean, these are really one of the best parts of this exercise is twofold. One, we're using a really cool loop, a really embedded loop. So each indentation is like another layer in the loop, which is awesome. And even within that loop, we're reading and writing to files, which is incredibly good practice because that's a skill that you're going to have to utilize if you're ever working as a programmer in real life, as opposed to pretend life. Yeah, I can save it. All I do is delete that temporary file. I don't even need that file anymore. And I ain't going to schedule nothing. All right, guys, so that's going to end it for this coding project. Please take the code, use it, be more productive, practice coding. This is an excellent exercise, not just even for Python, but also for conditional loops, the for, the while we're using, the reading and writing of files, and actually creating something that is executable. And that is also beneficial and you can utilize while you're at work or while you're home and you're trying to be productive. So with that being said, have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video.